#AlienQueen triggered the scanner's red alert. Her power couldn't be classified. The alarm did not sound like a warning. It sounded like the station was dying. Every screen on Checkpoint Viral 9 flashed the same two words in pulsing crimson. ***, unclassified entity ***. Senior Guard Commander Reese Alderton had worked border processing for 11 years and had never seen those words together. **dangerous yes. **contaminated yes. **elevated threat constantly. But *unclassified meant the scanner, a machine capable of cataloging 900,000 biological profiles across 47 known species, had looked at something and simply refused to name it. He stepped to the primary scanner console in 4 measured strides. Around him, the checkpoint's processing hall stretched 200 meters in either direction, lined with orderly queues of arriving passengers from the shuttle *Varel crossing star. Diplomats, merchants, migrant workers. All of them watched the flashing lights with wide, uncertain eyes. None of them moved. The guards stationed at each queue had not moved either. They were trained well enough to wait for orders. Alderton studied the console. The biometric scanner was locked in a loop, cycling through its database over and over, finding no match. Pulse rate, registered but unindexed. Neural output, registered but unindexed. Cellular composition, partially registered, then flagged with a code Alderton had to look up on his wrist pad. The code read, * composite signature. Multiple known species. Simultaneous expression. Classification engine. Failure. ***. He looked up at the queue the scanner had flagged. She stood at booth 7. She was tall, taller than the booth's adjustable frame had been raised to accommodate, so the scanner arm hovered near her midsection instead of her head. Her skin shifted color at the edges, the way deep ocean water does when light hits it at an angle. She wore layered garments in dark blue and silver that did not belong to any trade delegation uniform Alderton recognized. Her hands, forefingered, with joints that bent a degree too far, rested flat on the processing counter. She was entirely still. The kind of still that is not passivity but control. Beside her stood a child. The child could not have been older than 6 by human standards, though age across species was never reliable. She had the same shifting skin, the same forefinger hands, but her eyes were enormous, the deep amber of old honey, and they were fixed on Alderton with an expression that was not fear. It was curiosity. The child's gaze moved from his face to his badge to the flashing lights overhead and back to his face, reading everything. Alderton approached booth 7 without haste. The 2 guards stationed there had not touched their sidearms. He noted this with approval. The booth officer, a young woman named Tessa Crane, had frozen with both hands on her console and her eyes on her superior, waiting. Alderton stepped beside her and looked at the entity in the queue. "I'm Commander Alderton," he said, using the universal trade dialect. "Your biometric profile has triggered a classification alert. I need to ask you a few questions before we can proceed." The woman looked at him. Her eyes were silver gray and they processed him the same way the child's did, quickly, thoroughly, without expression. "You may ask," she said. Her voice carried no accent he could place. "Can you identify your species designation for processing purposes?" A pause so slight it might have been nothing. "I have several." Alderton kept his face neutral. "Primary designation will do." "My primary designation is not registered in your system." He glanced at Crane's screen. The scanner was still cycling. "What system would recognize you?" "The Conclave Registry. The Veth Accords database. The living archive of the Outer Rim." She said each name without emphasis, as though reciting common knowledge, none of which are connected to your checkpoint network. Alderton felt the weight of the situation settle over the hall like pressure before a storm. Whatever she was, she knew exactly what she was. And she was waiting, with complete, terrifying patience, to see what he would do next. The child tugged gently at the woman's sleeve and whispered something Alderton couldn't parse. The woman's expression did not change, but she placed one hand lightly on the child's shoulder. The gesture was brief, precise. It silenced the child immediately. "Are you a diplomatic representative?" Alderton asked. "Not presently." "Do you carry documentation from a governing body?" She reached into the fold of her garment and placed a single card on the counter. It was black, no thicker than glass, and The surface moved, not like a screen, but like something alive, like ink suspended in liquid. Alderton looked at it without touching it. "What is this?" "Proof," she said, "that I am expected." The scanner alarm continued its loop. The red light continued to pulse. Every person in that hall was holding their breath. Alderton picked up the card. The moment his fingers touched it, the surface stilled. The movement beneath the black glass froze into a single image, a seal he did not recognize but instinctively understood was very old. 3 concentric rings. A symbol at the center that resembled both a star and an eye. Beneath it, text in a script that his wristpad's translation engine processed for 3 full seconds before rendering a result. Asterisk bearer holds standing of sovereign rank. 5th order. Living compact of the outer rim. Priority access. Unrestricted. Asterisk. He read it twice. Then, he set the card down on the counter with the same steadiness he had used to pick it up. Sovereign rank, he said. Yes. Our system doesn't have a protocol for sovereign rank. I know, she said. That was the problem. He had standing orders for dignitaries, diplomats, heads of state, refugees, and flagged biological risks. He had no orders for something his scanner literally could not name, carrying credentials from a governing body his network had never indexed. Protocol said, escalate. But escalation meant detaining her while he contacted command, which meant detaining a sovereign-ranked entity whose classification had already failed once, and doing it in front of 200 witnesses in a hall that was already tense with flashing red lights. He looked at the child. The child was looking at the card. Her amber eyes tracked the seal with focused attention, the way children study things they've seen before and are not supposed to mention. Does the child travel under the same documentation? Alderton asked. She travels under mine. What is her relationship to you? For the first time, something shifted in the woman's face. Not warmth, exactly. Something older than warmth. She is mine, she said. The words were simple and absolute. Alderton turned to Crane and spoke quietly. Get me Director Harville. Patch through to his private channel. Tell him I need a protocol consult, not an alert team. He emphasized the last 3 words. Crane nodded and moved. He turned back to the woman. I need to ask you to wait in our private processing suite while we complete verification. It's a standard room, not a holding cell. You'll be comfortable. Both of you. She stuttered him. You are choosing caution over force. Yes. Why? He thought about it honestly. Because nothing about this situation calls for force yet. And, if I'm wrong about that, force won't help me anyway. The woman was quiet for a moment. Then, she picked up her card, returned it to her garment, and said, Lead the way, Commander. The private processing suite was a clean, well-lit room with 2 chairs, a long bench, a water station, and no windows. Alderton had used it for sensitive interviews, for arriving passengers who were ill, and once for a minor interstellar official who had become violently sick after a long transit. It was not designed to impress. It was designed to be neutral. The woman sat in one of the chairs. The child immediately climbed onto the bench and lay on her back, staring at the ceiling with her amber eyes tracing the light panels, arms folded across her chest. She looked completely unbothered. Alderton found that detail more unsettling than anything else so far. He remained standing near the door. While we wait for my director, he said, can you tell me the purpose of your visit? Exchange, she said. Of what kind? Information. She paused. And one negotiation. With whom? She looked at him with those silver-grey eyes. With whoever is in charge of this station. That's Director Harville. No, she said. It's you. Alderton did not answer immediately. He let the statement exist in the room, tested it the way he tested everything, not with reaction, but with observation. She was not making a threat. She was not flattering him. She was stating something she believed to be factual, with the same tone she had used to recite database names. Why me? He asked. Because you were the first one who came to the alert without a weapon drawn. From the bench, without turning her head, the child said, She says that's how you find the person who matters. The woman did not look at the child. But, her hand, resting on her knee, opened slightly, 4 fingers spreading just a fraction, and then closed again. Alderton filed that away. What does the negotiation concern? The child, she said. Director Harville arrived in 14 minutes. He was a compact man with close-cropped grey hair and the bearing of someone who had spent 30 years making decisions that were never as simple as they looked. He reviewed Crane's report in the corridor before entering, and, when he stepped into the suite, his face revealed nothing. He looked at the woman. He looked at the child, who had sat up on the bench and was watching him with the same methodical amber gaze she had turned on Alderton. Harville sat in the second chair and folded his hands on the table between them. I'm Director Harville. I've been told your scanner profile couldn't be classified. Correct, the woman said. That's a first for this station. I expected it to be. Harville glanced at Alderton, then back at her. The card you carry identifies you as sovereign ranked under the living compact of the Outer Rim. We don't have a treaty with that body. You will, she said. That is partly why I'm here. And, partly. She turned her head and looked at the child. The child looked back at her, and, in that exchange, wordless, swift, dense with something neither man in the room could fully read, a decision was made. The child, the woman said, has triggered every classification system she has passed through in the last 4 months. 18 checkpoints. 12 different scanner models. All unclassified. All red alerts. She returned her gaze to Harville. She is not a threat. She is a problem of definition. Your systems were not built to categorize what she is. What is she? Harville asked. New, the woman said simply. She is the first of her kind, which makes her valuable, which makes her dangerous, not because of what she can do, though that is considerable, but because others know she exists and want to define her before she can define herself. The room was very quiet. You're asking for sanctuary, Alderton said. The woman looked at him. I'm asking for something your people understand better than most, a space where something new is allowed to exist without being immediately categorized, weaponized, or owned. Harville was still. His hands on the table had not moved. Alderton knew that stillness. It was the stillness of a man who had just been handed a decision that would not appear in any protocol manual. You said the negotiation was about the child, Harville said. What are you offering in exchange? The Compact's registry, she said. Full access. Every species, every sovereign entity, every biological profile your scanners have ever failed to classify. Uploaded to your network within 24 hours of agreement. Harville let out a breath that was not quite a sigh. That's significant. Yes. And what exactly are you asking us to do? She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was still controlled, still precise, but, beneath it, Alderton heard something that had weight. Not desperation. Something older. Something that had carried a long way to get here. Let her stay. Give her a designation your system will accept, temporary, provisional, whatever word you need to use. Let her grow up inside a framework that does not require her to be understood before she is permitted to exist. The child on the bench had stopped looking at either man. She was looking at the woman. Her amber eyes were very still. Harville looked at Alderton. Alderton had been watching the child's face for the last 30 seconds. He had noticed the moment her expression shifted, almost imperceptibly, from the focused observation of someone gathering data to something rawer. Not fear. Something adjacent to it. The awareness that something was being decided about her, by people she did not know, in a room she could not leave. It was an expression Alderton recognized. He had seen it on his own daughter's face, years ago, in a doctor's office, when she was very small and very still and waiting to find out if the news was going to be bad. He looked at Harville. We can issue a provisional Category N designation, he said. It's technically for organisms with incomplete biometric profiles due to transit degradation. It's never been used for anything like this, but it's within our authority at the checkpoint level. Harville considered him for a long moment. That would mean she'd need to check in every 90 days for reassessment. Yes. And the woman. Alderton looked at her. Diplomatic visitor status, pending compact treaty ratification. She'd need to remain within the station's jurisdiction until we have confirmation from command. The woman said nothing, but her hand on her knee opened again, that slight spread of 4 fingers, and stayed open. Harville stood. He straightened his jacket, which was already straight. He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the frame, and turned back. "Get the registry upload scheduled," he said. "I'll contact command." He looked at the woman. "Your documentation will be processed within the hour." He looked at the child. "Welcome to checkpoint Varel 9. He left. The room settled into silence. Alderton moved to the water station and filled 2 cups. He set one on the counter near the woman and carried the other toward the bench. He held it out to the child. She looked at the cup. Then, she looked up at him with those enormous amber eyes. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was small and clear and carried no accent at all, the way a voice sounds when it has learned language from many sources and settled into something that belongs to none of them. "You're welcome," Alderton said. He returned to his post near the door. Behind him, he heard the soft sound of the child drinking. Through the wall, very faintly, the checkpoint's processing hall had resumed its ordinary noise, queues moving, scanner cycling, the low murmur of transit. The red alert had stopped blinking. In booth 7, Crane reset the scanner and ran a test cycle. It returned a new entry in the database, a single designation, clean and unforced, * category N provisional.
Val 9 registru.
Date of entry. Today. * It was not a complete answer. It was not even close to a complete answer. But it was a beginning, a small, deliberate space inside a system that had been built to classify everything, where something new had been given room to exist before it was fully understood. Outside the suite's closed door, the station moved on. Inside, the child set her cup down carefully on the bench beside her, lay back, and resumed her study of the ceiling lights. The woman watched her for a long moment. Then, for the first time since entering checkpoint Varel 9, she closed her eyes. End asterisk.